The Bever family seemed like your typical suburban household. David and April Bever were a deeply religious couple raising their 7 children in their home on Magnolia Court. From the outside, they appeared private but loving, with David working in tech and April homeschooling the children. But inside the house, things were different. The children rarely interacted with outsiders. They were homeschooled, isolated from the rest of the world. Some neighbors even claimed they never saw the kids playing outside. The Bever children grew up in a strict environment, with little exposure to the world beyond their own walls. Their parents kept a tight grip on them, controlling their activities and social interactions, leading to an environment of secrecy and detachment from normal society. This isolation made it easy for Robert and Michael's twisted ideas to fester without intervention. Among the 7 children, 2 stood out: 18-year-old Robert Bever and his 16-year-old brother Michael. Unlike their younger siblings, these 2 had a dark obsession. They were fascinated with mass murders, idolizing infamous killers, and fantasizing about carrying out their own twisted plan. They spent hours watching videos and reading about mass killings, studying the details, memorizing the techniques, and even making notes on how they would execute their own massacre. Their fixation grew into a dark fantasy, one they soon turned into a horrifying reality. Robert was the ringleader, a cold and calculating young man who saw himself as superior to those around him. He believed society was doomed, that the world was filled with sheep, and that he and his brother were somehow above everyone else. Michael, eager to please and desperate for his brother's approval, followed along, allowing himself to be manipulated into believing their plan was a good idea. The 2 spent months preparing, ordering body armor, knives, and other tools they believed would make their attack successful. And in the summer of 2015, they would put that plan into action. It started just before 11 p.m. on July 22, 2015. The quiet of the neighborhood was shattered by a chilling 911 call. A terrified voice, 13-year-old Crystal Bever, whispered desperately for help. She told the operator that her brother was attacking her family, but the call suddenly cut off. The dispatcher, unable to reconnect, immediately sent officers to investigate. Inside the house, Crystal had just witnessed a nightmare. Robert and Michael had begun their attack, starting with their parents. They lured their father, David, into a false sense of security before launching the first strike. Robert stabbed him in the chest, the blade sinking deep, while Michael assisted, making sure he couldn't fight back. David tried to resist, staggering back, but the brutal assault continued until he collapsed in a pool of blood. April heard the commotion and rushed in, only to be met with the same fate. She screamed for her children to run, to hide, to get away, but it was too late. Robert and Michael were methodical, relentless, and fueled by the gruesome thrill of their plan coming to life. As their younger siblings ran and hid, the 2 brothers hunted them down, one by one. Crystal was stabbed multiple times but managed to survive by playing dead, holding her breath, and remaining motionless as her attackers turned their attention to the others. Her 12-year-old brother, Daniel, desperately tried to call 911 but was caught before he could finish dialing. The phone clattered to the floor as the knife struck him over and over again, silencing his cries forever. Their younger siblings, 5-year-old Victoria and 7-year-old Christopher, were also brutally killed. The brothers showed no hesitation, no regret. It was as if they had completely detached themselves from their own humanity. Their youngest sibling, a 2-year-old girl, remained hidden during the attack, miraculously surviving without injury. The house, once a home filled with children's laughter, had become a bloodbath. The walls and floors were drenched in crimson, the echoes of terrified screams still seemingly lingering in the air. The crime scene was one of the most gruesome the Broken Arrow Police Department had ever encountered. The officers who first entered the house would later recount the overwhelming sense of dread they felt upon stepping inside. Robert and Michael had fled into the woods behind their home, but they didn't get far. Within hours, officers found them covered in blood, hiding near a fence. They were taken into custody without a fight. The brothers offered no resistance, no attempt to run further. It was as if they had accepted their fate, or perhaps they had planned for this all along. At the station, Robert confessed almost immediately. He showed no remorse. In fact, he was proud of what they had done. He told officers they had been planning the massacre for over a year. Their goal? To kill their entire family, steal their parents' money, and embark on a nationwide killing spree inspired by mass murderers they had admired online. They wanted to make history, to be remembered in the darkest corners of crime. Investigators uncovered chilling journals and online searches on the brothers' computers detailing their step-by-step plan. They had intended to continue their killing spree beyond their family, targeting random victims, with the hopes of achieving a body count in the hundreds. The reality of their twisted ambition sent shivers down the spines of even the most seasoned detectives. Robert and Michael were charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of assault and battery with intent to kill. The evidence against them was overwhelming. The surviving sister, Crystal, testified against them, recounting the horrifying night in heartbreaking detail. Her words left the courtroom in stunned silence, a painful reminder of the unimaginable brutality that had unfolded inside their home. Robert pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms without parole. Michael, who was 16 at the time of the murders, was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 38 years. Their dreams of infamy were reduced to cold prison walls, their lives a haunting example of the consequences of unchecked darkness. The Bever home, where the massacre took place, became a symbol of horror. Eventually, the house was demolished, and in its place a memorial park was built in honor of the victims, a place meant for healing, remembrance, and the hope that such evil would never take root again. Today, the case remains one of the most disturbing family murder cases in modern history. It raises chilling questions. What drives someone to kill their own family? How did no one see the warning signs? Could this have been prevented? And perhaps the most terrifying thought of all, how many others like them are out there waiting for their moment to strike?
If you want many more scary and interesting stories that have ever happened, then subscribe to the channel to always be aware of the release of new stories. And don't forget to like the video and write your opinion about the video below.